Hello everyone, welcome to today's video and this is your friend Bharat Shankar. In 2020, in the middle of pandemic, Bangladesh took over India in terms of per capita income, which means an average Bangladeshi was richer than an average Indian. And this is Bangladesh right now, where people are protesting because the government has decided to increase the petrol prices by 51% in the middle of the night. Not only just fuel prices but also food and essential goods prices are also shooting up. And with respect to the present crisis in Bangladesh, there are many videos that are surfacing on the internet. And horrifyingly to many people, these videos remind of Sri Lanka. So now the question is Bangladesh going to be the next Sri Lanka? Not long ago, the news headlines used to be like, India must learn from Bangladesh. But now those headlines have turned into Bangladesh's economic crisis. A country that was aiming to become a developed economy by 2041 is now on its knees begging for help from IMF. So now let's try to understand what went wrong with Bangladesh, which was once one of the fastest growing economies, is now on the verge of bankruptcy. So let's begin with the history of Bangladesh. So it all begins with a partition of India in the year 1947, where initially it was part of Pakistan, which was referred to as a Pakistani province of East Bengal. But in 1971, it became an independent country and Dhaka was named as the capital of this newborn country. And also, India played a crucial role in securing the independence of Bangladesh, which is a legendary story in itself, where the United States of America and the United Kingdom came to support Pakistan and even dispatched their biggest naval forces to attack India. And at that point of a time, it appeared that the whole Western world was against India and India is going to be defeated very badly at the hands of Pakistan, the USA and the UK and even China. And at that point of a time, Russia took a huge risk and came in support of India with a huge fleet of navy. And this scared the USA and the UK, who backed away from the battle, and India on the land defeated the Pakistani forces, securing a huge victory in the war and also securing the independence of Bangladesh. And from there, Bangladesh has come a long way, because after 51 years of independence, Bangladesh has even left Pakistan much behind in terms of economic development and growth, and is the second biggest economy in the Indian subcontinent only after India growth. And now let's come back to the main topic and talk about the current situation of Bangladesh. So right now Bangladesh is facing three major problems which are turning into a severe crisis. So the first problem is Bangladesh is facing a serious power crisis, and this power crisis is so severe that Bangladesh has to shut schools, reduce the working hours in government offices and banks just to save electricity. And then the second problem is the fuel prices are skyrocketing. In the last few weeks, the fuel prices in Bangladesh have suddenly increased by more than 50%, and this has made it very difficult for the logistics companies to operate, and many people are at the risk of losing their jobs. For example, a 35-year-old transport worker, Muhammad Islam, has been working for transport company for the last 9 years. And in a conversation with the BBC, he stated that if I lose my job, I might have to start begging in the street, because Muhammad Islam is not getting his wages because the transport company has no money, and now he is not even able to buy food for his family. And also he has no other job opportunities or nowhere to go. Because of this crisis, there are not many jobs left in the country. And then comes problem number 3, which is the most important problem, which is inflation, or which is also called mehengai. So currently in Bangladesh, the prices, especially the food prices, have been steadily rising since the second quarter of this year, and these rising prices or the inflation have emerged as one of the most serious problems Bangladesh and Bangladeshis are facing right now. Because right now Bangladesh is facing one of the most difficult cost of living crisis, and many are wondering why the prices are rising. The inflation rate in Bangladesh has spiked over 6% in the last 6 months and has hit 7.48% in the month of July. So now comes the big question, what happened in Bangladesh which brought the country to the situation of a severe crisis? So reason number 1 is the forex reserves. So what are forex reserves? So these are the foreign currency assets held by the central banks of that country, and these assets include foreign marketable securities, foreign currencies, gold and reserve position in the IMF. So presently the forex reserves in Bangladesh are below $40 billion, which is just enough to cover only about 5 months of imports, and in next 5 months, if this $40 billion of reserves are exhausted, then Bangladesh will not be able to import materials like oil, food, machinery groceries, iron, steel, plastic, vehicles, and many more supplies which are essential for day-to-day life. And this is what exactly happened in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka exhausted its foreign reserves and was not able to import essential supplies, which sent the entire country into crisis. And now, to avoid a situation like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh government is forced to seek loan from the IMF. So now another question comes, what is the reason behind this sudden fall in the forex reserves of Bangladesh? So if you see, Bangladesh is the third largest exporter of textile, and 80% of the country's export is textile. And this huge export of textile was only possible because of the 36% of the female workforce who are working day and night in the factories and making products for major fashion brands like H&M, Gap and Zara. And this business was contributing to the economic growth of Bangladesh, but COVID changed everything for Bangladesh. During lockdown, the demand for fashion clothes fell drastically, and because Bangladesh was totally dependent on the export of textile, their exports also came down. And when the economy started to open up, the Ukraine-Russia war made things even worse for Bangladesh because the crude oil prices started rising, which directly impacted the import bills of Bangladesh. And this whole difference created a situation where countries' exports are declining and the imports are increasing. And this resulted in a trade deficit. And now maybe some of you might be wondering, what is this trade deficit and how is it linked to exports and imports? So a trade deficit occurs when the total value of the goods and services a country imports exceeds the total value of the goods and services it exports. For example, in June 2022, Bangladesh's import were $710 billion and the exports were $420 billion. So to calculate the trade deficit, we simply subtract the exports from imports, which is 710 minus 420, that is equals to 209. Thus, in June 2022, Bangladesh's trade deficit was $290 billion, which means Bangladesh is spending more money or more foreign reserves to import materials and services into the country and earning less foreign reserves from the materials and services it exports to the other countries. And this trade deficit is the major reason why the forex reserves of Bangladesh are declining. It is as simple as that. Say your salary is 1 lakh rupees per month and you have around 2 lakh rupees of savings in your bank account. And now say that your monthly expenses become 1,50,000 rupees per month, which means now you have to spend more money than you are earning. Considering the 2 lakh rupees savings in your bank account, in the next 4 months, you will fall short of money to serve your expenses because now your savings has become zero and you are earning 1 lakh rupees per month and your expenses are 1,50,000 rupees per month, which means you will not be able to pay your home EMI or car EMI on time. You may have to buy less groceries, you may not be able to pay your water bill or electricity bill or kids' school fees and many other such essential expenses. And this is the exact situation what Bangladesh is facing right now, because Bangladesh has around only $40,000 billion of forex reserves as savings, which is sufficient only for the next 5 months. And after 5 months, Bangladesh may have to reduce the oil import, reduce the food import, reduce the iron, steel import and many such essential materials and services which are required for day-to-day life and day-to-day activities. Imagine a situation where petrol and diesel is available only for Saturday and Sunday. Imagine you have money but there is no food supply in the grocery stores. Imagine you want to build a house but there is no iron and steel supply or cement supply which can fulfill the demand. And this is the problem we are talking about in Bangladesh right now. And generally when a person runs out of money and his expenses become more than his income, the next common thing done in this situation is start taking loans. And this is exactly what Bangladesh is doing right now. Bangladesh took $4.7 billion as a loan from multilateral agencies in 2021, also received budget support of around $5.8 billion in 2022. Bangladesh received $732 million from the IMF as a balance of payment support and $1.4 billion from the World Bank to implement the countrywide vaccination program. And it is also believed that Bangladesh is seeking a $4.5 billion rescue package from the IMF after being hit by the import cost and the falling exports. And right now it appears that Bangladesh has already taken a lot of loan and Bangladesh is running out of loan options. And right now Bangladesh has to do something urgently to fix this situation of falling forex reserves, because if it fails to fix this forex reserves issue, then nothing can stop Bangladesh from becoming the next Sri Lanka. And along with the falling forex reserves, there are some other factors as well which are responsible for the present situation of Bangladesh, like unsustainable infrastructure spending. The present government in Bangladesh came into power in 2009. led by the present Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina. And under her leadership, the present government has undertaken several large infrastructure projects which are basically funded by other countries and multilateral agencies. And these projects include the Padma Bridge, a nuclear power plant in Rupur, Dhaka City Metro Rail, and Karnafuli Tunnel, to name a few projects. Of course, development projects are the core of any country's development, but there is a very big problem at the core of these projects, because these projects are becoming more and more expensive than the initial estimate of these projects, which means for some reason the government is spending more than expected money on these projects, far higher than the estimated cost, and some even believe that government is paying more price than the worth of these projects. For example, the Padma Bridge, which is one of the largest projects in the country, was estimated to be around $1.16 billion in 2007, but the project ended up costing $3.6 billion to the government. Of course, the final price of any project might be a little higher or little less than the estimated price, but can you believe it? This project costed more than 3 times than the estimated value. And this is something which is not usual and something which is also very suspicious. And this is not only the case with Padma Bridge. The ambitious nuclear power plant is costing Bangladesh around $12.65 billion, and the worst part is the actual amount to be spent will not be known until it is commissioned, which means the government has undertaken a project without even knowing how much money it needs to and it has to spend on the project. And this is a serious problem of mismanaging national wealth and irresponsibly spending money on projects without accountability and budget planning. And here some might say that, I don't agree with you, because these projects might be exceptions. But unfortunately, these are not exceptions but patterns, because a similar pattern emerged in the year 2017 when the World Bank noticed that the cost of road construction in Bangladesh was the highest in the world, and the cost overrun was largely because of the overpricing of materials, corruption, and long delays in the projects. So the unsustainable infrastructure spending is not an exception but a pattern which can be seen in almost all the projects that are undertaken by the government. And then another reason for the present situation of Bangladesh is that of loan default and the banking malpractices. So in addition to the current problems, the banking sector, which has been in the news for quite some time, is crippled by large scams and non-performing loans. Because if you see, in 2019, the Central Bank of Bangladesh claimed that the total amount of default loans was about $11.11 billion. But the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, disputed this statement and said that the true amount is more than double, which means according to the IMF, the defaulted loan amount is more than $22.22 billion. And also the current official figures of the defaulted loans announced by the Central Bank of Bangladesh has been questioned by many on several grounds. And after that, another major reason for the present situation of Bangladesh is the corruption in the power sector. So in March 2022, the government of Bangladesh celebrated its success in extending electricity coverage to the entire country. But this, however, came at a very high price. Between 2010 and 2021, the government of Bangladesh spent around $7.1 billion on subsidies for power generation. And because building the new infrastructure is expensive, Bangladesh found a quick solution, which was quick rental power plants, which means the government was renting power plants from the private players and paying them rent for using these power plants for power generation. And this was the reason in the increase in electricity generation, which was largely due to the establishment of quick rental power plants, or QRPPs, in the private sector. And in 2009, the Bangladesh government had said that these quick rental power plants are a temporary measure until a reliable and long-term solution was found. And if a long-term solution was found, then the private companies would lose on the rental income which they are getting from the government's quick rental power plant scheme. So they use the corruption loopholes in the government to keep the rental power plant scheme as the main source of electricity generation. And with the help of few corrupt government officials, they successfully stopped Bangladesh from moving towards a more reliable and long-term solution for power generation. And this influence of corruption could be clearly seen during the lockdown, when the demand of electricity went down, but government was somehow forced to pay these companies even when they did not provide any electricity. And these private entities, with the help of corruption loopholes and corrupt government officials, are misusing the government schemes and milking the system to their own benefit. In the past decade alone, 12 power companies have received more than $5.5 billion as capacity charges, and additionally, the government of Bangladesh has signed an agreement with the Indian energy company Adani Power, which would require Bangladesh to pay annually $423.29 million and $11.01 billion over its lifetime of 25 years as the capacity for its energy supply. So therefore, to conclude the discussion, this was the pathway Bangladesh has walked to reach the current economic crisis. So now it must be clear for you that this present economic crisis is not solely because of the pandemic and the Ukraine-Russia crisis, but instead this path was paved by the economic policies of the present government, the unaccountable system of spending in the name of development, and the corruption of government in the past decade. And the status of the present government is so that after the two consecutive national elections claimed by many as fraudulent, held in 2014 and 2018, have created a one-party system with no checks and balances. And it is high time the current government needs to understand that a bailout will only act as a band-aid. Taking loans may stop the bleeding for the moment, but there is no guarantee that it will magically solve the crisis without reforming an economic system that is tied deeply to the government regime's self-interested political vision. So this was our today's discussion, and if you like the discussion, then please make sure to hit the like button, which will make YouTube algorithm happy and help this video to reach as many people as possible. And also press the bell notification so that you get an immediate update whenever we upload a new video. So that's it for today, guys. I will see you in the next case study. Until then, this is Bharat Shankar signing off.